of chattering teeth.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. I think we can do this thing. Hi, everybody. I am Kirsten Johnson. I made a film with my dad this year called Dick Johnson is Dead, and this is my dad. My father was a psychiatrist, and some people say that my film gave him a chance to be a documentarian and me a chance to be a psychiatrist. Well, I'm here with Lynn and Eddie Goldfarb. And I would say, in some ways, this extraordinary movie gave you, Lynn, the chance to become a toy maker and gave Eddie the chance to have a little more insight into his daughter's life as a documentarian. So I just want to kick it off with Eddie, what did you think of your daughter's choice of a profession? How do you feel about her being a documentary filmmaker?
Well, she started a long time ago. I think right while you were still in university. I don't know, maybe right afterwards. And she did very well. And we were very, very proud of her. And we were even at the Academy Awards when she was nominated. And we were on the top level. We couldn't see the stage, but we were up there.
I've been up there at that really high level. You can't see anything. But hey, I have to say, my father is like, wow, that daughter delivered, got her father to the Academy Awards, even at the nosebleed section. Lynn, that is a huge accomplishment to get your parents to the Academy Awards. I have to cheer that one. That's fantastic. Lynn, do you think of this movie as a toy, as a precious little toy? Because I think of it that way in certain ways, right? It's like it has its mechanisms, it gives unexpected pleasures, it's crafted like an object in certain ways, a jewel of an object.
That's a very interesting way of looking at it. I never really quite thought of it, but it does, as a film, as a story, it has an arc, to it. And, toys and games also have arcs to them, so you are kind of in the middle. If you're in the game, you're in the middle of, you're at beginning, middle of end, as you play with it. And so I think in that analogy, the film has all these treats that were all these, moments of pleasure that we got both from making it, and experiencing it.
I love this idea of the arc of the toy or the arc of the game. I mean, basically with the chattering teeth, you got to wind them up, let them go, and then they stop.
All right, here are the chattering teeth for the momentary illustration of that. Well. Anyway,
Eddie, how long?
These aren't the original ones, so they're not.
How long can those teeth chatter? How long can they keep going when you wind them up as far as they can get winded up? How long?
Almost a minute. Yeah.
A minute. Wow.
Almost. Yeah.
And I have to say, I mean, having created those, you could have just stopped. You could have just said, mic drop, I'm out. I've done the greatest toy of all time. I'm walking away. Did you decide that you were on a quest to make a better toy than the chattering teeth for the rest of your life? Or did you know there was just that you didn't have a chance? You would never make a toy as good as that again?
I was very lucky. I always knew I was going to be an independent inventor. And during the war, I was on my submarine in the Pacific. And when the war ended in Europe, we still had to fight Japan. And we thought we'd be there at least a couple of years more. And I thought about my future, and I decided that if I were to be a successful toy inventor, period, I better specialize in one industry. And I chose toys because I felt I didn't need any large amount of money to be to fund me, and that's why I chose toys. And then I designed my first 3 toys while I was on the Batfish, my boat during the war.
It's, that is such a remarkable story, Eddie, that like you were in the middle of, one of the worst wars in humankind, and you were imagining possibility. And you were sort of both grandiose and modest at the same time. You're like, I am going to be an inventor. I can do that, but I'm going to do like something small that doesn't need a lot of money. Uh, I do think, Lynn, that totally echoes the independent documentary filmmaker. That is absolutely the same spirit. It's like grandiosity, but I can find a way to do this. Do you feel like that's in your philosophy also as a documentarian?
Well, I think I learned from my father that first of all, that independence is important. You don't have to go and work for a company. You can follow your dream. You can follow your passion. You should be creative. And, whatever obstacles there are, those are, they're only temporary. The idea that, we hit all these challenges and they're part of the whole process. And as my dad has often said, in toy inventing, you have to embrace failure and rejection. And in film, you have to embrace rejection all the time, and you have to be able to just continue on. And that's that kind of household I was brought up in.
Amazing. So you were sort of taught to not take it personally, but just give it another try.
Absolutely, yeah. And never and don't dwell on the rejections. Don't get that bad energy in your head. Keep your mind and your creativity towards doing other things.
Eddie, was there ever a point where you lost the faith in your capacity to be an independent inventor, or did you always, there was just like you just kept it going at all times?
No, I was very close and several times. Well, for example, one time I went to see a company with a one-way airfare because I didn't have the money to come back, but I knew he was interested in the item. And so my wife and I said, let's take the chance. And sure enough, he took the item. He said, "Oh, take it." But he also said he'll send the advance in a week or two. And I just had to smile and say thank you. And I left, and I didn't know how I was going to get home back to California. But I eventually called my sister, and she sent me the money.
Wow.
I got home.
Amazing. Amazing, the chutzpah, I
You,
would say,
you,
to
you just have
say,
to keep going.
basically, we can make this work. Even if it doesn't work, we're going to make it work.
Absolutely. You have to keep it going.
Oh, well, Lynn told me that you just don't stop writing these 100-word stories, that we see you in the film, in the workshop with your friends writing. And one, I want to, we talked about it a little bit before we started, but you're like, how's it going with the crowd at the village? People are accepting the fact that you're a superstar. They're taking it in stride. Is that right?
They're taking it in stride. Yeah.
That's amazing. So you're in these writing workshops. How often do you do your writing workshop? Even during the pandemic, everyone is showing up and doing it together?
Well, I work in my workshop almost every day, but my workshop is in the garage, in the kitchen, and in our big room. So it's all 3 places, and in one of the bedrooms where I have my drawing board.
Amazing. So you're using your whole house to be doing your work, and then you're going out and meeting your friends and doing some writing.
Yeah, we're not meeting each other that much because of the virus, but I relax a lot with writing my stories.
Amazing, amazing. Well, we have a question from the audience, but at a certain point, we're going to call upon you to read your latest story. But the question from the audience is, what are some of your favorite memories of creating these toys, and what have children said about them?
Well, you're speaking really of the toys rather than.
Yeah, what's the feedback from the kids about the toys?
Well, I had very, very little feedback over the years directly from the kids. We heard from parents a lot, and they were telling us to, for example, on the Miracle Sip, a little drinking glass where when you drank your milk, the merry-go-round went around.
Yes, I want one. Yes.
and they needed a spare part or something, but I got a lot of positive feedback from that. But I get a lot of feedback now because there are a lot of toy collectors. And my biggest toy practically is called the Stompers, and they're little off-road vehicles. And there are thousands of adult collectors who collect them very seriously, who played with them when they were children. And some of them keep in contact with me and have me sign uh, uh, posters and things like that that they make up.
The
So that's a
Stompers are not still in production, so all of these are like
no.
limited edition. There's competition in the Stompers world to get hold of the few remaining Stompers. Is that right?
Well, yes, yeah. Well, they were made by the millions and millions, but they're not in production now. But the hobbyists who collect them have cabinets full of them, rooms full of them, and they trade with each other to get certain ones because there were hundreds of them. And so it's really a lively hobby, and it keeps them off the streets.
Boy, and you want those Stomper lovers not on the streets. That is for sure.
Right,
So
right.
I can imagine that you tried all of these toys on Lynn, and that Lynn must have had a couple of favorites. Lynn, or were you were refused to be a guinea pig to these experiments?
Well, I'll kind of answer both that question, but I actually just want to add something about the response of kids and parents. The documentary now is on YouTube, on the New Yorker channel on YouTube, and we have, I think, 714,000 views and about
wonderful.
About 1,800 comments. And the comments that come in, a lot of them are about the toys and how much these toys meant to people when they were growing up, and the fond memories that they associate, the toys with. And so I think that's also been a really rewarding experience to get that, it's almost random feedback because it's just comments from people that are so struck by what they saw, and it brings back that memory. So that's been very.
And those that you weren't in getting that kind of feedback when you were making the toys, Eddie. It's only now with the film that you're able to learn more about how the kids respond to it. Talk about multiple gifts this film is giving. It doesn't surprise me that hundreds of thousands of people want to watch this movie. It is such a joyful watch. Lynn, did you have a favorite toy of all these toys?
I don't know if I had a favorite toy. Certainly one of the ones that we really loved playing with when we were kids was the vacuform, which is actually, which was a toy that came out when I was, still of the kind of toy playing age. We played with a lot of different toys that my father would prototype and bring home. And we also had toys around the house. But one of the things about being the child of a toy inventor is all the toys that he would bring home for us to test or try out were secrets. So we were always like sworn to secrecy, on anything. So my friends knew that he was a toy inventor, but no one was ever allowed to see a toy in progress.
Wow. Okay, so this is some now I'm channeling my father, the psychiatrist. So how do you think that this, like, the secrecy of the patent hoarding has affected your life, Lynn?
Oh, I have no idea. It's a respect for the process,
Mm. Oh, that's
but
a beautiful answer.
yes,
And knowing something isn't baked until it's baked.
yes.
Well, a patent is someone like a copyright, an author or someone who writes music can protect their music.
That's right. And so that you taught your children that a creative process is to be respected until it is completed in some ways.
Well, there was always an understanding between the inventor and manufacturer that no one should see the item until it comes out on the market. So I was really, was very important for me to keep it quiet until the item was finally out on the market, which could take a year.
Wow. Wow.
But
And
there's certainly a similarity with films. I mean, we don't show our films like even Eddie's World. I didn't show it to my father till it was almost done,
yeah.
just about finished. I mean, it's a different, it's a slightly different reason, but it is the same thing. It's the respect for the process.
Yes.
And you see it when it's put together with the photos and the music, and it's you're not seeing it in pieces.
That's right. And you were telling me earlier, Lynn, that in some ways you hadn't been privy to all of your father's process, and that the act of filming this movie let you into seeing what he does when he's testing and drawing and putting the pieces together. Can you tell me about the experience of being there in that space, watching him work?
Yeah, it was an incredible process, incredible opportunity, because whenever we would come and visit my father, my parents, they would stop whatever work they were doing. My dad would never, like, it wouldn't ever be when the family would come over. He would never go in his workshop and work. That would be something he would do before or after. So the ability to actually be there and watch him work and be, following him around, and him showing us what he did, but also we just asked him to do what he would be normally doing. And I remember one day we were filming and he was on a deadline, and he was, and he'd been telling me he was too busy for us to come and film, but I really needed to get some of this footage. And so, I said, we'll go in and we won't say a word to you. Just work. And we did that. Our director of photography, Scott B., he just followed my dad around. And I think it's some of the most beautiful footage because my dad was really wrapped up in what he was doing and we were just observing.
You understand that that's how I started working alone and ending with I don't work alone, I work with my son, Martin. But in between, as I was able to afford to hire people, I hired the most wonderful model makers and engineers, sculptors, artists, and I had at the top of my deal, I had 39 people working for me. Terrific, terrific people.
Wow. and that sort of collaboration was a source of great pleasure, I would imagine.
Oh, they were just great. People like Del Everett and uh, Renee Soriano, and I just can't name them all now, but they're all wonderful.
Oh,
They were with me for over 30 years.
wow. So what do you find has changed for you in your process now that you're more often working by yourself as opposed to as a part of this community of people making things? How is it different?
Well, I really work alone, kind of.
Yeah.
My son goes to all the toy shows and takes care of all the business and shows items to manufacturers, toy manufacturers all over the world, toy manufacturers that I don't know today, especially in Europe and places. And so he does all of that. And I just work at home. And I also work on items related to seniors, uh,
Mm.
uh, keep them from hurting themselves,
Oh,
uh,
wow. That's
falling
amazing.
down, from falling down.
That is, well, and falling down is seriously one of, as my dad knows, but it's like one of the most real
Oh,
causes of injury
it's
and death in seniors is falling, just falling over. So
it's
that's
so,
fantastic.
it's so common. I made all kinds of things for my wife, and thank goodness we never had uh, an accident at home. She did have one when we were in Palm Springs. She did fall in the bathroom there, but never at home because she had all kinds of gadgets that I made to keep.
Oh, wow. Okay, Lynn, I know what your next movie is. I mean, I'm serious. Like I I would love to one, I want a bunch of those gadgets for myself. I want a bunch of them for my dad. That is so beautiful. I love it that you're like trying to figure out how to solve life in a certain way. I
Yeah.
I think a lot about sort of how do we as people be at peace with the choices we make about our own lives and yet stay stimulated and stay active? And I feel like you cracked some code, Eddie. You found a way to work at a scale that you can actually do it, and you're not overthinking, oh, is this the most meaningful thing in the world to make? But little by little you're making all this meaning and joy, and I'm just curious about how you are you really as at peace as you seem to be?
I think so. I'm very fortunate, and I'm in good health. I have a friend,
Yes.
which makes it very nice. She's more than a friend; she's a significant other. And uh, I knew a long time ago that being creative helps your health. It stimulates your brain, and I think that takes care of your body.
Mm.
So, I know I'm doing the right thing, and it's working. So,
It certainly is. It is totally working. We have another question of someone who says, it's so interesting that you limit yourself to 100 words in your writing. Can you talk about what limitation does for creativity and if that translates to your inventions?
well, in my writing, I specialize in the 100-word stories, but I do write much longer stories. But the 100-word story is kind of a challenge. You get a lot of meaning into just 100 words, and it really, I really can't connect it to my inventing, except the 100 words story does solve a problem of keeping it at 100 words, still telling the entire story.
That's right. Lynn, do you see a way in which it connects to the inventions, the limitations?
I don't know if I would call it limitations. I would call it more the parameters of it, and
That's a good
so
word.
I
The
think
parameters.
the creativity that goes into writing a story and keeping it at 100 words is really important because, also 100-word stories has to have like a beginning, middle, and end to it. And I think with inventing toys, it also, you work within the kind of the creative structure, the parameters in which you can make something. So I very much see the toys coming out of his, my dad's inventing, and his creativity with toys and all. And he has, like 800 toys that he invented. He's written, maybe about 180 stories, but all of them in it, like the toys, a lot of them are really different. It's not like one kind of toy. And
Totally.
with the
So different.
stories, the subject matter are all very different as well, combination of fiction and nonfiction. So I think his mind really is constantly, thinking of new ideas, and then how to express them, how to put them in reality of a story or a toy.
Eddie, did watching the film give you any inspiration for a new toy?
No.
Not yet. It's going to come. I
It's
feel
gonna
like
come.
my personal theory is that audiences keep making films with us. And my bet is in one of these comments from someone who has seen the film, there's going to be a gift of a kernel of a new idea and a new toy. That's my personal theory.
It absolutely works.
I hope so. I hope so. Um, Lynn, maybe just tell us, were there any parameters you created for yourself in making the film?
Well, I think yes. It's first of all, we needed to respect my uh, shorter schedules in a day of working. That we would film, and my dad really wanted us to be done by usually 3 or 3:30.
Oh, I love shooting schedules like that. That's the best.
Right. And under any other circumstance, we'd never be done at that hour. So it was, okay, we need to fit into the rhythm of the person who we're filming.
So great.
We needed, to also, respect. We never wanted to tire my dad out or, put too much pressure, so those are certain kinds of
She was
parameters.
very considerate.
What, Eddie?
She was very considerate.
Well, she seems like she's a very considerate daughter. I have to say, she's a lot more considerate than me. I was killing my dad all the time in my movie. She was very respectful of you.
And we let him have a little nap usually every day of filming. He's very good at like 20-minute naps,
Yeah.
power naps. And so
Yes.
we always found a time for that. But
I
the
think
other
every
thing
film crew should be allowed to have power naps during a shoot day.
But I think the other part of it is we really wanted to, the film is Eddie's World, but it really came out of the fact that we really wanted to stay in Eddie's world.
Mm.
We didn't want other people to be commenting. We didn't want to interview anybody else. I wanted the film to be, as my father saw and experienced the world.
Well, you succeeded at that so beautifully. And I think we all want to go deeper into Eddie's world. So, Eddie, will you please read us a 100-word story?
Okay, I've got one here. It's called the Tennessee Waltz. I live in a retirement area. I live with a lot of seniors. Some of the seniors are more senior than others. Okay, I'm going to read the story now. The Tennessee Waltz. When I visit my mother at the Alzheimer's Center, I would see them dancing so beautifully and always to the Tennessee waltz. She is a patient, and he is really is her husband who visits her every day. Her memory is gone, and he doesn't want to upset her. So on every visit, he introduces himself as a brand new friend and asks her to dance. They always dance to the Tennessee waltz, and they are very good. When asked, she explains he is a new friend, someone she can trust, and he so reminds her of her late dear husband. That's exactly 100 words.
Oh, and a heartbreaker. Okay, is that a true story or did you make that up?
I made that up, but
Oh,
I didn't write the Tennessee waltz.
oh, you are a killer, Eddie. That was like a knife to the heart of a child of parents with Alzheimer's. I will tell you, that story's a killer. That is so great. And it does, you are in tune with the world that you are in and what people are experiencing and what it is to, love people as life ends. It is powerful feelings. And you got powerful feelings in those 100 words.
It is a challenge, and it's a wonderful hobby. It's a hobby known all over the world, by the way. I certainly didn't start it. People write 100-word stories in every country.
Wow. Wow. Well, I feel I feel very invigorated by talking to you and by this extraordinary movie that you made with your daughter and Lynn that you made with your father because I think it's just we all need wake up calls every once in a while. And sometimes it's somebody falling over and then we got to figure out what to make to help them, be safe. And sometimes it's the wake up call of precision and the things that can be accomplished with precision in your 100 words. It makes me want to talk less and talk more precisely. I love it. Um, I I have to say that with my film, one of the things that I thought was happening was that I was making a film about my father. And then into the process, I realized I was making a film about my relationship with my father. So I'm just curious, I would just love it if each of you could say something that you have discovered in your relationship with each other through the making of this film.
Want me to go first? Well, I always admired Lynn's work. She's made so many documentaries, and the response has always been so positive. And but more than ever, I really found out how talented she really is because she turned a story just of a kind of an ordinary nice guy into something that that's very interesting. And I think she did a great, wonderful job.
Mm. How about you, Lynn?
Well, I think I probably learned how much I was been influenced and shaped by my father, while making this film, and enabling myself to listen to him in a different way, to see him both as a daughter and as a filmmaker, because both of those views are very different, and just gain, a new respect for his, creativity and his optimism and, and his persistence. We used to always joke, my dad is like, we used to joke about his optimism because he never would find he's optimistic about everything. He always finds the bright side of everything. And, you know, and that's the way he was the whole time we were growing up. But I think filming him and seeing in the film, I really gained a new appreciation of what it meant for my father as well, you know, and that was really, you know, a wonderful experience.
Uh, well, the two of you made this film before the pandemic,
Mhm.
and it you knew that we needed optimism when you started working on it, but now we need it kind of, we really need it. And I think I want to wrap up this wonderful discussion with both of you. Um, since I will say, I know you're an optimist, Eddie. Lynn, I would say you are also an optimist, but willing to see beyond that. Do you can you both give us, everyone who's here, just something from your toolkit of being creative people, of what would you say would be sort of a gift of an idea or a practical thing that you could offer to us, the audience, to help us cope with this pandemic, based in your own practice of being such creative people for your entire very long lives?
Um, well, I'll speak and then have my dad have the last word. I mean, I think it is really the power of creativity, the power of ideas, the, you know, never to get uh, down, always find like how to, you know, find your way out of a problem, you know, or look to the future. I think we're both very future oriented, you know, which is really nice. And I've had such a pleasure. I mean, I've had such a wonderful experience releasing the film during the pandemic. I mean, it's been certainly different. You know, we haven't gone to film festivals and kind of all the things that would have been nice, but I think we've been able to reach a wider audience, and I've really been quite uplifted by the kind of response that we're getting from people that view the film. And you know, that's, you know, it's really important and it's really special. And I know that it's working for us in this time period now.
Mm. Eddie, last word.
Okay. I think these are terrible times. We have all kinds of problems. And I think individually, people are very upset and they need to talk, they need to laugh, and they need to get together the best way they can, even by Zooming. But I think they should try and be creative. And being creative doesn't mean that you have to invent a rocket engine. Being creative is uh, planting a seed and watching it grow, or knitting a woolen cap for your grandson or your husband, seeing something to grow from nothing but an idea, a thought, into something that's real, something you can hold in your hand, something that affects you. I think being creative really helps us all through this mess that we're all going through. But it's all going to be okay. All going to be okay.
I gotta say, that was a great last word. What a joy to meet you in person. It was such a joy to meet you in the film, Lynn. I just delight with you in the fact that you got to give this gift of making this film to each other and that you've shared it with the rest of us. It means so much to us to be encouraged to remember how much creativity can help us in these times. So, huge love to you both. Thank you so much for doing this conversation.
And thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's really been a great evening. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All
It
right.
was great.
for
Oh,
your
Eddie, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. All right, let's all go and make things.
All
Thanks
right,
for the
good.
inspiration.
Be optimistic.
Anything, anything.
Anything.